Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Trauma Translator with your host, Lauren Friedman. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's guest is really special to me. It's Celeste Bonin. She is a former WWE athlete and champion. And before we dive in, I just want to share a little bit about the focus and the mission of the Why Go Project, as well as the Trauma Translator. And at the end of the day, my goal is to help educate, empower, and elevate. And through all different modalities, all different healing subject matter experts, coaches, creatives, all types of people in the space that are helping others get by and figure out how to elevate and empower themselves. So today, I'd like to officially introduce you to Celeste Bonin. Celeste, thank you so much for joining us.
Woo! Thanks for having me. This is fun already.
Yeah, no, it's truly a pleasure.
It's I can't remember the date of the first time that we met, but I remember the day so clearly, and it's been such a pleasure to be connected to you in my life, both personally and professionally. And this project that you are doing is super exciting, and I've gotten to witness a little bit of the behind the scenes. So this is a super cool thing to be doing with you.
Thank you so much. I just appreciate you so much. Like, this is like a love fest for me, because when we first met, it was November of 2023. Nobody needs to remember dates besides me. It's actually a function of trauma, honestly, is knowing those dates. But when I had met you originally, I just loved your vibe. I didn't know who you were, but I was like, I have to continue speaking with this woman. And you've just been nothing but this incredible support to me. And the reason I'm so excited to have you on today is because I've said this to you so many times since we started working together, but you were the first person in my entire career path, like since I started this on my own in June of 23. It took me an entire year to find you and start working with you. And you were the first person that really gave me actionable guidance and ways to bring both my business background, right, into also my healing modalities. So I think it's just so important for people on LinkedIn and across platforms to really have exposure to you, your methodologies, your ethos, and just who you are as a person, because everyone can benefit from the Celeste Bonin experience.
Oof. You know what? And that is such a, I got chills, when you say that, and I know you've said that to me in the past inside our private containers, working together. But it's because I see you. We're very similar in our mission with helping people and also building a thriving brand and business, doing what we love, things that fuel us and make us feel alive and like we're in alignment with the purpose and the calling over our lives. So it's, I always believe that anybody that comes into my energy field, whether it's a friend, client, that we're connected for some reason energetically. And I vibe with the people that I meet, and especially in the professional space, because it's just like, it's a very specific type of person to do this kind of work and to stay strong and resilient in the process, because we're all always going through our own stuff and healing and getting better on a daily basis. Yeah. So it's such a beautiful opportunity to have community with people that get you and they see you and they vibe with you and they understand the journey of it all.
No, I mean, and thank you so much. I mean, you truly, like, one of the first things that before, like after I met you in person and I reached out to you, I mean, I've been following you on Instagram for months, and I obviously was like not paying attention. I didn't even know you were a former athlete. I just, oh wait, I loved her. I want to talk to her. She's in the fitness community. And as soon as I met you, the first thing you said to me was, your body is about to have a reaction. And I was like, I didn't realize it at the time how that was going to happen. And you were so right, and it did. And as soon as we started working together, we found ways to be able to extend the practices that I was already doing, right? And find new ways to build out my toolbox, which is what everybody needs. And the thing about working with you specifically, especially as an entrepreneur, especially as someone who, I mean, my background was in corporate for the last 20 years, and nobody in the corporate world has ever really prepared us for entrepreneurship, right? And especially with trying to regulate your nervous system. And it's literally impossible, as we both know, to do anything without a regulated nervous system. So I think your approach and your background is so needed right now. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I just want to speak to that briefly. It's really been a revelation for me in terms of the evolution of my coaching and my work and my message, really, all the things that I've gone through in my professional career over the last 15 years have been about learning the power of resiliency in the body and the nervous system. I've had careers in 3 different industries. Now it's coaching and mentorship, but my first career was in the spotlight as a WWE champion, and it was insane and cool to say the least, but I reached these really, really high levels of success, and then I ended up having a major crash, a burnout in every way, mentally, physically, emotionally, and then I reinvented myself in after my WWE career into the fitness industry and the retail industry, and again I reached these really high levels of success, and again a crash mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. And so looking at my past and saying, look at this pattern. I'm capable, I'm talented, I have this vision, I have this drive to build something so beautiful and powerful, but I don't know how to hold the capacity of that in my body. And so that was such a huge revelation for me, especially in the work that I do now, because I end up teaching and coaching my clients who are on a very similar journey. And it's just a powerful modality or understanding or wisdom to have, is that, hey, you can be the most talented, driven, genius person, but if you don't know how to hold the responsibility and the pressure of what you're trying to build in your body, you'll never be able to maintain it and sustain the success that you build.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly it. And that's exactly why I think that your perspective and your journey has been so relevant to me personally too, because I too also have had success, not the same, right? But a different level of success and significant burnout. And I've been trying to scale a business while my life is literally on fire. And what's really funny is that when you and I first started working together in 2024, I mean, in theory, on paper, my life was way better than it is now on paper. But in reality, it's actually better now, and I have a better management of my capacity. I have a better understanding of my energy, my intuitive wisdom, where my body feels safe, where it doesn't feel safe, and the situations, people, places, and rooms that I'm supposed to be in. And even just the way I sit up, I think often of, there are a lot of different modalities and a lot of different experiences that I've done to try to find healing, and a lot of different practitioners. And one of the things I really gained the most out of working with you has been how to structurally get my body ready for success, prolonged capacity, prolonged energy, and to make sure I am sitting up straight. My ears are away from my shoulders, because that subluxation alone literally will give me a migraine. And being in pain was something I was really navigating in a profound way when you and I first started working together. So I think it's really, you bring together the modalities of not just a fitness expert, not just someone who understands the mind-body connection, not just someone who has scaled business, but you bring it all together. And this is ultimately what I'm working towards as well, is highlighting people like you who have these shared wisdom that can then help others help themselves, because everybody I know is struggling in some way, and everybody needs to find some support, and connection changes everything. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up, in the WWE, because how does that even happen?
It's a wild story. When I was 14, I started lifting weights and training, and it really became a huge part of my identity and who I am in the world. And it taught me not just physical strength, but mental resilience and emotional resilience. And when I graduated high school, I was doing fitness competitions and really wanted to make it in the fitness industry. And I got this opportunity. I was in between fitness shows, training for my next show, and I got this opportunity to meet somebody who was a former developmental talent in the WWE, and he was in the process of trying to become a talent scout for the brand for WWE. And so I had talked to him about what it looked like to be able to try out or to get a contract with WWE. And he set it up, and I sent a bio and some pictures, and I got a tryout. And the tryout was like a 5-day, you essentially live the life of a contracted talent with the WWE. And I got hired. And within 3 weeks of getting hired, I moved my whole life at age 23 from Houston to Tampa, Florida, which is where the developmental center was at that time. And when you get signed to WWE, unless you're a really established wrestler, a really established talent, you get signed to a developmental contract. So I was supposed to go down to the developmental training facility, learn how to wrestle, learn how to speak on the mic, how to perform in the ring, how to be on camera. And I was there for less than a month. I had literally never had a match, and I was just learning the basics of how to take a fall, how to do some of the most basic moves, how to have awareness of my body. And I got this like once in a lifetime opportunity to go on a show that WWE was launching at that time called NXT. And it was a reality based elimination show. And so here I am. I had just gotten this developmental contract, just getting my feet wet in learning about the world of professional wrestling, which is an art form. It really is an art form. It's performance, it's physical. It's like a soap opera with combat where you're trying to protect your body and your partner, but make it look real.
Which is life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was happening? So WWE has an umbrella of shows, Raw, SmackDown. And at the time they were developing the show called NXT. It was it was a reality-based elimination show. And the premise was they would take 6 developmental talents that had developmental contracts, and they would go up on the road and travel with all the main superstars. And you would compete on live television once a week for a spot on the main roster. So every 2 weeks, someone would get eliminated, and it was based on audience votes. And the show was set to go live on a certain day on the Sci-Fi Network. And 5 days before the show went live, I got a call from Connecticut, which is where the WWE headquarters is. And it was at the time the guy that was in charge of talent relations. And he's actually the guy that hired me. He said, "Kid, you're up." And what had happened was one of the women that was set to go on the show, they ended up releasing her. Something about her didn't align with the brand, the way that they were developing the WWE brand at the time. They were going way more PG, kind of moving away from the Attitude Era stuff. And I was just next in line. It was between me and this one other girl. We were brand new talent. Both of us had no experience. And so they selected me to replace this woman 5 days before the show went live. So I ended up debuting in Baltimore. My first time being on television, my first time really wrestling a match was on live television. And so by the grace of God and this determination I had, I ended up winning that show. So I got throughout, like, every 2 weeks someone would get eliminated. And I made it all the way to the finals, and I ended up winning the show. So they gave me a spot on the main roster. And my whole story was like, I was this brand new, super green person. I didn't really have time to develop a character, my in-ring presence, my wrestling arsenal. Like, I was just so clueless, and all I had was this like will to be great. And my talent was very raw, and I had the athletic ability. So I won the show. I got a spot on SmackDown on the main roster, but they kept me behind the scenes for about 1.5 years because I needed to learn. I was so green still. And so that's what launched my career in television entertainment. And what I did, I was still contracted as a developmental talent, even though I was on the main roster technically, but I wasn't on television because they needed me to work on my skills. And so I was previously, I think it's a little bit different now in the WWE, but previously we would do 2 to 3 live events that were non-televised per week in just cities around the US. And then we would have live television for Raw, and then we would film SmackDown. And so I was working and learning how to wrestle on all the non-televised stuff. So I was like really just learning how to perform and learning how to perform in front of a crowd, and storytelling and developing my wrestling skills. And then I got another crazy out of the blue opportunity to be in a battle royal. And this was after being with the company for 1.5 years, 2 years, and I still wasn't established on television, but just on the roster. And it was this Divas, at the time, women were called Divas. And it was a big Divas battle royal on Raw, so live television. And the match was for number 1 contender. So the woman who had the title at the time, she was on commentary watching the match, and all of the women on the roster, SmackDown and Raw, were in the ring competing to win the match so they could have a title match for the possibility to win the title. And I wasn't supposed to win. Wrestling is predetermined. It's scripted. You know who's winning going into the match. You know the different parts of the match to be able to perform to tell the story. And because I hadn't really established myself and I was very low in the totem pole, I was supposed to be eliminated within the first or second minute. Like I wasn't super important on the roster yet. But one of the trainers, the producers who helps the talent put together the matches behind the scenes, he had been gone for a year, a hiatus, and he was somebody that helped me a lot when I first started. And he came back and he looked at the match, and this was before the show started. It was on Raw, and he was like, "Why aren't you on TV yet?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm busting my ass. Like, I'm doing everything I can, and I don't know. And so he scribbles out the whole match, and he puts me second to last. So I wasn't going to win the match, but I was going to be in the match the entire 10 minutes of the match, and I was going to be eliminating people. And at that point, that was the biggest moment of my career yet.
Yeah.
And so we get to the match. It's on live television. And something they always used to tell us is like, you can't mess up on live television. It's just live. It is what it is. So you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
And so we got down to me and the last woman in there. Her name was Eve Torres. And she actually was a huge mentor to me in the months and years to come after this match. But she was supposed to be number one contender. She was supposed to win the match. So we're down to the last 30 seconds of the match. I'm supposed to clothesline her over the top rope. And with a battle royal, you eliminate someone by throwing them over the top rope or over the second rope. And when their feet touch the ground outside the ring, they're eliminated. So the spot was supposed to clothesline her over. She was going to flip over, hang on, and then pull me out by my hair and eliminate me. And she was going to be the number one contender. So I clotheslined her, and the physics were off. And she didn't go over. So we set up this spot again. We got set up. We have to communicate to each other very discreetly in the ring,
right? Yeah,
because we're opponents, we're fighting each other.
Yeah.
And so we set the spot up again, and I clotheslined her so hard because I was sure that was not going to happen again. And I hit her so hard that she flipped over and couldn't hold on, and she got eliminated right there. And so in that moment, live TV, it was a botch on the match. I wasn't supposed to win. She was the one that was supposed to be number one contender. Here I am, this new person again, that has this amazing opportunity. And all of a sudden I'm just like, oh my God, everything goes silent, and the camera's on me. And the ref at the time, it was also his first time to referee live television. Two brand new people in there, and so he has a mic in his ear, and it's Vince and the producers and stuff that are talking to him from the control room. And they just told him, celebrate, grab her hand. So he grabs my hand, and we're celebrating. And so the lights go out, we go to commercial, and I walk back into we call it gorilla, where everybody is before you walk out through the curtain. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to get fired. I didn't know.
You're going to beat up, right?
Yeah.
He's really going to kill you?
And because you just never knew, because at that time, Vince McMahon, he was at every television. He was always there, and he really had creative control over everything. So, and he was kind of like a loose cannon. You never knew what to expect from him. And and Vince is always sitting in that producer's chair every live television. And so I'm like, oh my God, is Vince going to yell at me? Am I going to get fired on the spot? I walk through the curtain. Vince is laughing hysterically, and there's like multiple people in this room. And the producer of the match is there. He gives me a hug, and he just tells me great job. And the girl Eve, the woman who was supposed to win, she was crying. Of course, it was very upsetting. And at that time, she was a veteran. She had been there for quite some time, a few years, and very established as a wrestler. And, mess ups happen, accidents happen, but it was a big moment to have a mess up. Yeah. And from that moment on, I was then written into the storyline. And then about 6 months later, so I had this whole storyline with Eve. And then eventually about 6 months later, I won the title in Houston, Texas. So my WWE career was just really all of these moments where I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I had this determination, and I was just ready for something amazing to happen in my career, in my life. And so it was a hot start to my professional career.
No, that is just like, that story alone is inspiring in and of itself. But what really stuck with me are a few things there. And this is what, when you and I first started working together, and this is why I think it's so relevant, is one, the woman that was upset originally eventually became your mentor and your guide, right? So she became a close friend of yours. But two, what you said, you're on live television, you can't mess up. It's just like life. It doesn't matter, because you're going to, whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. You're always going to be right on time. Even like right now, I've been calling it a flow, because I've been slowing down my life so that when opportunity presents itself, I'm ready. Yes. And guess what? All the things have been presenting itself. As soon as I started slowing down and waiting to receive, that's what it was. So I think it's really interesting that working, with that perspective and understanding how things work outside of a traditional career is really interesting to me. So when you talk about how you ended up from burnout to building a brand, tell us a little bit about how you work with clients and what you bring to that type of relationship.
For sure. So, I had an amazing 4 years in the WWE, traveled the world, did some just really incredible stuff. But it was at the price of, I was paying the price. I was so young and I didn't have tools. I didn't have tools to ground myself I was just always in my head. Everything was just this crazy emotional high and then emotional low, and the travel was really grueling. And
Yeah.
it was so much pressure, not just on stage and in the ring, like on camera.
Yeah.
It was so much immense pressure backstage. It was almost more pressure backstage than it was being out there in front of the audience and on television. So my nervous system was just constantly triggered, and I was just so much just stress hormones just pumping through my body, to where the point where I essentially folded under pressure. I ended up having a great title run, and then a really amazing few months after I lost the title, I had this very profound feud with one of my real life close friends. And then after I lost the title, I was just going, it was like, everything came crashing down. Number one, the title didn't really give me that fulfillment that I was searching for.
Yeah.
And then, so that was a huge disappointment. And for me, because I thought I was just searching for something that had a little bit more purpose and meaning. And the title wasn't it for me, even though it was a huge honor, because I was still figuring out who I was and really who I wanted to be in the world. And I had this massive platform and I didn't know what to do with it. And so that really weighed heavy on me. And I didn't have leadership skills. I didn't know how to change the culture of the locker room, which wasn't good at the time. And so I folded under pressure. I was very alone. I didn't know how to talk about what I was going through. I was gaining weight. Emotionally, I was just so imbalanced, and it just, I cracked under pressure. So I ended up asking for my release with 2 years left on my second contract. They give you 3-year contracts. I went through my first one. They re-signed me, and I only made it to the first year of my first contract. Then I asked for my release because I just didn't feel like I could do it. The travel was very, very difficult. And again, I was on the inside, it felt very broken. And so I left, I took a few months off, and then I was engaged at the time to my first husband, and I started a business. I had this idea when I was wrestling, I would have this seam sewn into the rear of my outfits, my wrestling gear. And I took that idea, essentially would just hug the curves of your body, of your booty. So I took that idea, I put it into leggings. And so I created the booty scrunch legging in 2014. And I launched a company around that called Celeste Bodies. And this was my opportunity to reinvent myself, to actually build a brand that was me, not a character, and to build a legacy for myself. And so I was the face of the company. I built a huge business Instagram for Celestial Bodies, and I continued to grow my personal brand outside of being a character on television, outside of being a professional wrestler. And I learned a lot about business. I learned about, my career is full of these. Like, I didn't know anything about wrestling. I figured it out on the fly. I didn't know anything about business. Figured it out on the fly.
That's what you and I always align on, is like figuring things out. I also think, not to interrupt you, but you didn't crumble under pressure. That's literally, your body literally said stop. When you talk about the traveling, like, one of the things that's always stuck in my head when I've heard parts of these stories in the past was those traveling, the lack of sleep. That will make you feel insane. That will literally make you gain weight. That disrupts your hormones. It disrupts your ability to even think. So trauma is just stress that overwhelms your ability to cope. And when you talked about, speaking about in the ring felt less stressful than out of the ring. Yeah, because that's an contained environment. You have a script. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. On the occasions that it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Generally, there's something that you could stand by, right? Whereas in the locker rooms, behind the scenes, you have no idea what's going to go on. So your body's always in a state of hyper arousal because you're always hyper vigilant, looking around you to figure out, like, am I going to be safe? So I don't look at it as breaking down anymore. When we first started to get together, I really look at it as really just a response to something that's overwhelming. So as you've been, resilient and getting through all of this, I think it's really beautiful that you were able to recognize your own limitations, your own capacity. And I do think that's leadership in its pure form. To me, that's leadership. I've been told by so many people that as they're letting me go with my entire team, even though I'm a top performer, they're like, like a man breaking up with you, like, you're so good. I wish we could just, I don't know how, you're just so good, and I feel like it's the same type of thing. They're like, you should be a leader. And then they let me go. So it's really that same conundrum of having to figure things out for yourself your whole life, right? This didn't just start when you entered the WWE. You've been doing it as your whole life. And now you've been able to alchemize it and make it so you could help others. Because I think it's just such a beautiful story. Like, it's hard to start a brand on your own and not know anything about any business and just learn everything. Like, that's one of the reasons why I actually now have a no asshole policy as part of my platform, because everything has to be reciprocity. Like, if you're gonna engage with people, partner, support them. They support you. It's really simple. So that's how we build business, and that's how you build mutually respectful relationships. So I think your perspective is so needed when people are trying to build brands, because you're realistic. You're not saying, hey, this is easy. You're like, hey, this is what I've been through, and this is how I can help you. And that's why I love working with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, and please go on.
No, I appreciate the reflection. It's hard to process our own stuff, even when we've healed pieces of ourselves through the difficult moments. But everything that transformed me and happened during my WWE career was this profound teaching for me as I stepped into these different versions of myself in these different careers. And I didn't see it as that then, but then looking back, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this prepared me for this, and this prepared me for this, and this helped me with what I do now with my clients. So I was building this fitness brand, trying to heal myself from just the burnout I was going through, and the kind of the emotional confusion, the confusion around my identity, who am I in the world, really, what is my mission, what is my message? I had great success. I built Celestial Bodies to a 7-figure brand. I was on magazine covers, and I had just this unbelievable team of athletes and affiliates, and I was building this empire. But again, just like with my WWE career, I started to reach a breaking point where I was so unfulfilled by the work that I was doing. I felt very disconnected from what I thought purpose was supposed to feel like. At that point, I hadn't felt that, and I was still very disconnected from myself. And I think a really important point is when you're in a consistent or a constant state of dysregulation, it's just normal to you. So I didn't have any awareness around what presence is. What is it to be present? What is it to be fully grounded in your body? I had no concept of what that meant. And so because
no one ever taught you, because no one teaches you how to human. And that's where you and I also really also aligned, because I also didn't have a baseline for what regulation felt like, because I'd been in a constant state of dysregulation my entire life.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, like understanding, just having a baseline for what this feels like, so then you could contrast it. But if no one ever teaches you that, then how do you know what it is? It
just is what it is to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where it becomes pervasive, because trauma, stress takes you out of your body and into your head. So you become disconnected. You don't know what's happening in your body. Like, you had enough awareness, but to know that I have to get the F out of this, but you're like, why? So you had to really seek deeper into yourself. And I think that's one of the reasons I think it's that I've launched this mission, is so that people in general can learn how to human, because no one ever teaches you how to human.
Because most of our, we grew up in families where dysregulation was the standard. It's normal. That's how we programmed our own nervous systems and our operating systems. And so you witness how to be a human from your parents, and they struggled too. And so it's interesting that life brings you to these points where you have to acknowledge what's happening underneath the surface. You have to start asking questions like, what do I want out of my life? Because I know this isn't it. And that's the point that I got to in my business. I went through, my first divorce. I've been married and divorced twice. My first marriage was very toxic, and I had a lot of healing to do internally, and it was expressing in my business. And I started to struggle in business, and I started having panic attacks. And that was the first time in my life that I started to identify with somebody or to understand that, like, oh, I have anxiety, and it's pretty bad.
Well, how old were you? Like, you were like in your late 20s, early 30s, right?
I was 30. I was 30.
I didn't figure that out till I was 38 also, because like you, right? You've probably been experiencing it your entire life, but you didn't have a name for it, because all of a sudden it became so cumbersome and so unbearable that you couldn't ignore it anymore.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how I felt too.
But your experience brings you to that point where it's like, it shows you such a strong reflection that you cannot deny it
Yeah.
anymore. And that's what the
Once you
panic
feel it,
attacks
you
were
can't
for me.
unsee it. Yeah.
Right. So, this is when I started going to therapy and learning about meditation and seeking different philosophies in terms of spirituality and trying to find some sort of peace. And then, so that's really when I started my healing journey, was about 2018, where I said, man, this person that I am today is doesn't feel like who I truly am on the inside, like what my life looks like, what it feels like. I feel like there's more.
Yeah.
And so eventually, and about 2020, for multiple reasons, but it was mostly because of my own disconnection from myself, my business started to fail, my clothing business. And eventually I was in financial collapse around 2020, 2021. So I closed the doors to Celestial Bodies. During the last year of owning and operating Celestial Bodies, I had started to mentor and coach other influencers that were wanting to bring a product into the world, whether it was a clothing brand, following in my footsteps, or just to create a strong personal brand. So I had kind of started finding a little bit of purpose in that, in those coaching containers with other influencers that were looking to do something similar to what I did. And so when I closed the doors to Celestial Bodies, the natural evolution for me was to go fully into coaching. And when I first started coaching, I knew I had something because I had started to heal myself. I had started to find deeper layers of myself, more meaning, more purpose, more peace, and to disconnect from just consistently being in my head, and started to notice and feel something more profound about life. And so that's what I had started teaching in my coaching. And it was, so in the beginning, it was really about mindset and tapping into a spiritual aspect of yourself, whatever that looked like, practicing meditation, ice baths, kind of like a biohacking method.
Yeah.
And then a few years into
part of your practice. Like,
yes,
it's a major component.
Yes. Well, so I had started to really experience a lot of somatic, visceral healing through some of these breath work, ice bath, stuff like that. And then in 2021, within the first year of having this coaching business, I hired a coach to teach me how to speak, because I wanted to start getting my voice out there now as this reinvented version of myself, this new brand in a brand new industry. And I'm no longer a wrestler. I'm no longer the face of a fitness brand. I'm me. There's no masks. There's no product. There's no character. It's just who I am. It's my philosophy, my ideas, my experience that I am meant to share with the world. And so I hired someone to help me speak, and she became my business coach. And then she taught me at that time, I was still very deep in my healing journey, and I was experiencing a lot of physical pain. Like you've talked about that. I had chronic lower back pain, chronic neck pain.
That's debilitating. That will literally stop you in your tracks.
You can't be creative. Like, it's just, it's horrible to have chronic pain. And that's where I was. And I thought, this is just normal, and I was maybe 32, 33. And I was just like, oh, this is what happens when you're 30, which is not true.
Not true.
It's not the natural evolution of how your body should age. It's stress, and it's trauma. And
it's a lifetime of everything, because it's not just what you're taught, it's not what society expects, but it's also epigenetic. So it becomes more pronounced with those lifestyle habits, right? When you're like, I basically lived a consultant's life. I was on a plane 3 weeks a month, 5 flights a week. So there was one story you told me about, like getting a plane and doing something else. And I think we were like going to the airport too at the time. And that stuck in my head as WWE for you. Because that epitomized your life there.
Yeah. Yes. So this woman who became my business coach, and she's still my coach. She has helped me in the most unbelievable ways to develop myself professionally, personally.
I'd love to have her on here. She's amazing.
She's so good. Yeah. She does a lot of business and creates a lot of content for LinkedIn. So it would be cool for her to join you here.
I've connected with her already. She's awesome.
She is awesome. So she taught me a movement system that is focused on engaging your fascia, which is your connective tissue. And that changed my life so much that I decided to become a certified teacher of it. So she certified me in the movement system, and it's called Riverstone Movement. It's an evolution of something called the bowspring. So it's all about postures and dynamic movement and engaging your connective tissue in a way that allows it to unwind and release. And
And
so
release, yes. I
it
forgot
releases.
you and I were the fascia people. I totally forgot about that.
Fascia is the future.
Yeah,
It
no,
really
fascia
is.
is literally the best.
So many people are learning about it, understanding it, and getting into it. And so I became certified to teach it. And that actually, that unlocked me so much. And became such a significant part of my coaching with my clients. And so, today in my coaching business, I teach people how to create an iconic personal brand and how to grow their self socially and person, just essentially stepping into this icon era of yourself. And a big component of that is the body and somatic stuff that I teach behind the scenes, which is the movement system. So it's
a foundational component.
It's the integration piece, essentially.
Yeah.
So another big component of my coaching is not just building your influence, growing your audience, and a social presence, and also the way that your energy can shift a room when you walk into a room, but also learning how to convert your audience into paying clients and customers. Because when you're a heart-driven, soul-driven entrepreneur, obviously you want to help as many people as possible, but you also want to create a thriving business and the lifestyle that you desire, because you deserve that. And so it's really this mixture of business and body where I've really found my groove. And it just speaks to a lot of my professional experience of, it's like I have all this street cred, it's like I know how to build this success, but I didn't know how to sustain it. I didn't know how to have peace, health, happiness, and to enjoy my success. So I ended up crashing in my two previous careers. And so when I rebuilt myself in the coaching industry 5 years ago, over the last 5 years, I built a stable foundation, and that stable foundation is within my body. And so the nervous system component, the somatic component, is everything. It's everything.
100%. Yep.
So it's the piece that really allows people to bring forth their ideas, to embody the philosophies that they teach or the products that they sell, whatever industry you're in or whatever your brand is. It's the concept of creating such a strong personal brand, just who you are, how you hold your body, how you speak, your energy, so that you can be successful in literally any industry, any market. It doesn't matter. You could pivot tomorrow and still find success because of who you are.
Exactly, because you are in your body and nothing can distract you. Nothing can knock you down. No, I agree with you. And I would love to, I know that we're almost at time for today, but I would love to have you on again. I think people need more of your medicine and more of your wisdom. And I just think that I know for a fact that, like, over the time that I've known you, your wisdom has allowed me to integrate it and embody it now. And now I'm thriving. And I just feel so grateful to have you in my head when I was in I had a grumpy day, and I was just like annoyed, and I was like, no, get back in the energy. You were just in the energy. And I wasn't yelling at myself, right? I wasn't bullying myself, right? I try not to do that, but I literally, like you, I do a lot of fascia work, and just having a constant reminder of somebody who's been through similar things, who knows how to navigate those experiences. Because like I said, I came from the corporate world. I have hundreds of thousands of people that I'm connected to that have built businesses and sold them and all kinds of things. But you were the first person that brought it all together in a way that made sense to me. And like you said, it's not just for entrepreneurs, it's not just for creatives, it's for everybody. But when you're building your own business, you absolutely need to know how to release energy out of your body and how to get into your body and your own self in order to sustain success. So I can't wait for the future for both of us. There's going to be a lot more happening. And as this all unfolds, I hope to have you as part of live events, and people can really get to meet you in person and understand your methodology. It's
Yes. Yeah. This has been a blast. I could talk to you forever. It's such a vibe and a synergy. So I'd love to come back for part 2 or however we do this.
And tell everyone where they could find you.
So I am newly on LinkedIn. So I'm here on LinkedIn. I'm primarily on Instagram, and my Instagram is my full name, Celeste Bonin. I put majority of my content lives on Instagram, and I'm also hosting a free 30-day email journey starting January 1st. So if you find me on Instagram, or you can even find me on LinkedIn, just comment JAN 30 Jan 30 for to sign up. I'll send you the sign up form. And it's just like, it's a super low pressure foundational process to build yourself up, to have the resilience in your body, the somatic intelligence in your body, to really build substantial, sustainable success in 2026.
I love that. And I'm actually going to be featuring everybody who is on this live and on any additional partnerships on the website on Why Go Project. So it'll be under Build Your Business, and there'll be links to that. And there'll be other features and newsletter drops that'll feature all of these things as well, because everyone needs your medicine. So thank you so much. And we can't wait to have you on again.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you again. How are you feeling? Bye.
Bye.
Join us next week.